Now, Team Liquid finished runners-up at the ESL Season 16 Pro League. They were able to almost win the title. They absolutely, in this game, had a real chance to win the title. They were up 2-1 in maps after Mirage, which admittedly was a very close game. They also could have lost that. They had a 12-8 lead on Overpass, the fourth map at one point in time. Then they were 14-12 on Overpass. Now, true, it was T-side, which can be hard to win on. But Vitality came back and won that map in overtime. Vitality won the fifth map. Vertigo ended up being close, but they run away with it early. Overall, Team Liquid had a very good run. They had a good run, and, well, they'll get into that. And they showed a lot of resilience, especially in the final. And quite frankly, they even had a lot of fire in the final that made it look like, hey, they might win this. Like, wow, it's an overperformance, but hey, it's going to happen. So contextually, and you think of some of the issues of past Team Liquid lineups, yeah, this was a contrast. This was different. I can see why people got a little bit hyped, and obviously NA fans have been waiting so long for an actual NA team. Spoiler, Cloud9's an NA org, they're not an NA team. A real NA team to have a chance to win tournaments, big tournaments, and potentially, obviously, the major's just around the corner, maybe have a crack at winning that major that only Cloud9 won, and they weren't the greatest NA team of all time. Problem is, I do think this run now means Team Liquid, sure, in the moment and the hype of the almost win, are actually absurdly overrated. Like, people are talking like there's just this group of teams of FaZe and like they're in that group and any of these teams could win the major. Like, as though it's like there's an equivalency there. I think it's nonsense, personally. So I do think that Team Liquid is overrated. Just because, and it's true, they could have won the final, could have, didn't, doesn't mean that before the final they were in any way favourites. It doesn't make them as good as Vitality either. Nor does it mean that when people say this major's wide open, they're one of the teams you can reasonably expect to win the major. As I'll show you in this video, that would not at all be the case if you look who they've played and their results overall. When you say the major's wide open, what you mean is FaZe is still really good, but every now and then they lose. Na'Vi got the players on paper to be amazing, but they're really bad at Pro League. Vitality looks good, but even then they have to win a lot of close games, gutsy games. Clearly, people like Spinks are still finding their role overall. And maybe Cloud9 can somehow pop off, because Cloud9, the thing about them is they're reliable in the sense that you can't actually rely on them. Like, they're not even reliable to disappoint you, because sometimes they'll just blow someone out the server, but you never really know when to put your money on Cloud9, do you? So quite frankly, for me, Team Liquid, and G2, that's right, G2, you can wait your turns or show us more. You have yet to do the big things yet that are supposed to mean you're as good as people say you are. And remember, this is Team Liquid's best run with Yekindar, who I remind you is technically a stand-in. So let's look at this run, take in what they accomplished, gauge its difficulty, and ask ourselves, how impressive was it? So here we have Team Liquid in ESL Pro League Season 16. In their group, which look at the groups, like Group A, on paper is pretty hard because you've got Na'Vi, you've got Vitality, NIP supposed to be half decent. Group B, reasonably hard. I mean, you've got G2, you've got FaZe, Outsiders, Bigs, whatever. Group C, in theory, is the easiest. Like, Heroic's supposed to be good, En's supposed to be good, but En's lost Spinks, and Heroic's obviously beyond the slump. And then Group D, I think between C and D are the easiest groups. Like, this one has a bit of parity, but even so, no real super team. This one has Team Liquid supposed to be good, Cloud9's supposed to be good, even Theory, Fury is supposed to be decent still, even though they haven't had results. So you'd have to say one of the easier groups, one of the two easiest groups in the tournament. And Team Liquid finishes third in it with 3-2 in wins. So already not particularly good. By the way, this is their best ever run, this tournament right here. So then you go and look here. In the first game, they beat Movistar Riders 2-1. Now, if you're a casual, you're going to go, Movistar Riders, well, they beat Team Liquid at Cologne and they were a top 4 team there. Hey, they're a team on the rise. No, their best player, Sun Pius, left this team before this game and was playing in Ents, the team that actually bombed out in Group C. So as you'll see here, when they play against Movistar Riders, this is a close 3-map series, where Team Liquid could have lost all 3 maps, could also have won all 3 maps. It's really, really close. And then let's look at what actually happens in the game, shall we? So you go and look here. Okay, Yekindar's doing well, Alicia's doing well. This is all good, fine stuff. Martinez, plus 13, 70 kills. That's the guy who replaced Sun Pius. A guy I've never heard of, has never really played a real LAN, just played some bullshit in like whatever Spanish region, Iberican region or whatever, right? By the way, notice there, just mad outperforming OC, the people everyone won't shut the fuck up telling us we're really good. But okay, You win the game, whatever. Win's a win, right? It just doesn't look very impressive. So, okay, next game you play against EG. Now everyone's going to go, oh, evil geniuses. Like, oh, they haven't won a series in 300. Yeah, it was obviously a different lineup, though, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't exactly these players. I mean, Stanislaw's not there for a start. It's only basically Breeze and Cirque. So I don't really think that's that relevant. But yeah, EG wasn't a good team. Now, by the way, I did call EG upsetting Eternal Fire, but that's just my skills. And also, it was a guess, wasn't it? Now, Liquid managed to actually, in dominant fashion, beat EG. Okay, well done. Not a good team, by the way. Then you go to the next match. They're playing against Furia. Now, Furia actually is a team ripe for the taking. Furia's a team that's been struggling the last few months. It was only in this group stage, K Serato going absolutely supernova. That was getting them in position. But you look at this match. Furia wins 2-1. So already not great signs if you team Liquid. And actually, if you look at the maps that Liquid loses on, overall, they got smashed. Like the decider on Vertigo, they get utterly bodied on, from T-side, by the way, of Furia. It's a CT fucking meta, boys. And then on Mirage, they get their heads smashed in the first half. Big time lead for Furia. And then Furia just gets it over the line after some CT round wins for Team Liquid. It's a CT meta, guys. Like, overall, that is getting smashed. Now, yeah, they did well on their map against Furia. Okay, who really gives a fuck, right? So then, you go to the next match. Then they lose to Eternal Fire. The Turkish team. Does anyone think Eternal Fire is good? I don't. I even had EG beating them. Like, they're okay. They've got some decent players. Dontaras are skilled. Even so, like, they're not a top team in the world. This is Team Liquid's best ever run. And you know what? It's a semi-close series. But they're not even in that case all that close. It looks some nice T rounds. Okay, that's all good stuff. So then you go to the last match. Wow, wait a minute, Thorin. Cloud9, winners of IEM Dallas. Team Liquid beats them 2-0, don't they? And you know what? Yeah, second map's pretty close. It's OT. First one, reasonably close. A good amount of T rounds overall from C9, but still comfortable win all in all. So, okay, semi-close series, right? Here's the problem, guys. Go back again. Look at this. Cloud9 comes first place with 4-1. Okay, first place with 4-1. So before this game, when Team Liquid plays against Cloud9, Cloud9 has beaten EG 2-0. They've beaten Eternal Fire 2-0. Remember, 2-0s get you like the map advantage and all that crap in this thing overall. Then they beat Movistar Riders 2-0. Then they've beaten Furia 2-0. They haven't lost a map yet in the tournament. They've 4-0'd the group stage. They are actually guaranteed first place if you understand the way this works, especially because they've also just beaten Furia in the head-to-head. And they cannot actually, in this scenario, fail to come first place as far as I'm aware, which means they're already going to skip around in the playoffs. So there's actually nothing for Cloud9 to play for anymore except the $5,000 you get for a win, which that doesn't motivate people, I'm afraid. In fact, you'd even argue if you want to win the whole tournament, like 175k for first place, you should probably actually just fuck around in this game, not try hard, not reveal anything about what you're going to do. Just do a standard veto of normal maps that you would do, and it doesn't really matter if you win or lose. Now, I still think that Cloud9 tried to win the game, but I don't think there was any pressure on them. Meanwhile, Team Liquid actually did need to win this game. Because remember, they're in a position where they lost to Eternal Fire already. They could be in a really dodgy spot if they don't win. So they actually come out and they do win. They win 2-0. Now, you know what? I actually picked Team Liquid to win 2-0. I even guessed on my betting show that potentially they could be in a scenario like that at the end where they'd have to win and maybe Cloud9 would not. And they did. That is exactly what happened. By the way, it's a similar thing that I did previously with FaZe Clan and G2 in a different order against Big and G2 in the Group B. So, okay, we'll come out third, not in particularly impressive fashion, minus the win over the team that doesn't really care in theory. So let's go to the playoffs, all right? Because in the playoffs, that's where legends are made. That's when people show how good they are in the playoffs, guys. So we go to the playoffs. What's this here? That's weird. Team Liquid's come third in their group, and their bracket is going to be Fnatic. Mouse is waiting for them. And then, okay, then they're going to play the winner of Cloud9 and FaZe Clan. Oh, okay, that's big time stuff. And it's FaZe Clan, that is the number one team of the world. That is the team of the year so far, probably the team of the year no matter what. But let's be real. Playing Fnatic first round, this is the easiest bracket draw by far. Like, what this means is this. Your first round opponent is the easiest of the second place teams. Because who else finished second? Heroic. Look, Heroic's not that great right now, but it's still better than Fnatic. Then you got FaZe Clan. Could have been FaZe Clan. No, it isn't FaZe Clan, the number one team in the world. And you can't play Furia because they were in your group. So then you go down the easiest of all the teams that are in this particular part of the tournament, right? Also, Fnatic, a team that in terms of this lineup has fuck all experience going deep in tournaments and playing in playoffs. I mean, this is a studio land, but even so, playing in tournaments, right? So let's go look what happened. This is a really close series. Like, dude, they could have lost this. This could have been like a 2-0. This is way too close. What's going on? Okay. Playoff nerves, get them out the way. Okay, we're still fairly new team. Some of these lineups are newer, but okay. Then we play against Mouse, right, for Team Liquid. By the way, easiest of all the first place teams. So let's go look at the other first place teams. Right? You can't take Cloud9, they're in your group. Mouse is over here, 4-1. You could have had Vitality, they win the event, by the way, and beat everyone in their group, including Na'Vi. You could have had G2, they've beaten everyone in their group, including FaZe Clan. No, you somehow get Mouse from, as I said earlier, probably the easiest group of the tournament. You get them in the quarterfinals, and then let's look. Right, this is a semi-close series again. Okay, actually, decent number of T rounds all in all from Mouse. Still, win's a win. Comfortable enough in this meta, right? You're beating a team. Still 2-0'd them. That's a big deal. It was 2-1 against Fnatic, but you're still 2-0'd Mouse. Okay, that's pretty legit. I mean, let's be real. This Mouse lineup, this particular lineup, they've just added Xertion, who wasn't doing that well early on and looked like he was struggling a little bit, quite frankly, from the academy team. 3 of these players, by the way, earlier in the year were academy players. Not a top team. Yeah, Mouse had that run where they managed to make it pretty far. They managed to make top 6 themselves in Cologne, didn't they? That was a mad fluke run, wasn't it? So, quite frankly, okay, this is a team you should be favoured to beat. In fact, do you know what? Let's talk about Thorin's bets again, shall we? What's that? Thorin already bet on Team Liquid to beat Fnatic with favourite odds and won. Okay. Then Thorin bet on Team Liquid to beat Mouse with favourite odds and won. Okay, they're favoured all these times in the betting odds, guys. Even the money says they're the team that's supposed to win. So now, Team Liquid is already in the semi-finals with, drumroll, win over Cloud9 when it didn't really matter for Cloud9, win over Fnatic, win over Mouse, win over EG, win over Movistar Riders, and lost to Furia and Eternal Fire. So, okay, good news. We're in the semi-finals. FaZe Clan, though, has already lost to Cloud9 because famously they always play really close. Just like at Dallas, this was an epic close series that Axar carried. I thought someone stole that point that I made, put it on Reddit, but whatever. And then into the semi-finals comes Cloud9. Now, by the way, again, if you're looking for an easy bracket for your Team Liquid, look, this tournament, Cloud9 was really good, but you've already beaten them. There's actually a team that you can beat. You might even need the psychological advantage. But I'll tell you what, all the money was going on Cloud9. And it meant that there were ridiculous odds for Team Liquid. So even though I would have edged Cloud9 slightly, they looked like they could be a very dangerous team. That's the thing about Cloud9. They can just turn up and be amazing against a lot of teams. At the same time, the odds were crazy for Team Liquid. So don't worry. I did bet on Team Liquid at big underdog odds, 2.714. By the way, why are they at 2.714? Yeah, I understand betting, people. But if people really believe in them, you know you can just put your money on the site, right, and go ahead and bet. If you really think they're going to look at these odds, you'll be making mad money too, right? Obviously, bet responsibly. So then they play against Cloud9. Very close series. Very close series. Both teams could win this. Look how close this is. Like, Liquid wins a pretty good Inferno. It's supposed to be a weak map for Cloud9. Cloud9 wins it, shouldn't go right back, shows that Liquid doesn't really have like punish picks in the map pool. You go over here to Dust 2 as the decider. It's really close, big T rounds from C9, but Liquid manages to get their own T rounds, managed to win out. Some close moments decide it. Okay, that's pretty cool. I actually had them already winning anyway, but yeah, now you're into the final. I will say, you haven't had to play Na'Vi, you haven't had to play G2, you haven't had to play FaZe Clan, you haven't had to play Vitality, because you know what? Most of those teams are on the other side of the bracket, the much more stacked side of the bracket. So on the other side of the bracket, the killer's row, the murderer's row, out comes Vitality. And they've beaten Outsiders, tricky team, G2, who's beaten Na'Vi, who themselves are beaten Heroic. And into the final, you go against Vitality, right? And you know what? This is a really close series, let's be real. By the way, Vitality in the finals, obviously the big shock is not Na'Vi or G2. Na'Vi's the big shock for me. Other people would say G2 and they thought they were better. I didn't think so. I actually also bet on Vitality to beat G2 and I won on that as well. So I actually think if you go and look overall, yeah, this final was really close. Like there's a world, if you look here, they win Inferno, they lose Dust 2, similar kind of scores. Mirage is super close. By the way, Vitality was leading, like 13-7, 13-8 at one point in time. There's even a round where Zero was in like 1v2. He kills one with a deagle. Then he could have swapped to the AWP behind the like boxes where they plant the bomb on here. But he just tries like to make a frag movie clip and just steps out with a deagle and loses the 1v1 from what I remember. So somehow big clutch players, they come back, they win Mirage. They could have won Overpass. This could have been 3-1 for Team Liquid. And also, by the way, could potentially have been 1-3 for Liquid against Vitality. And they could have lost in format. But what actually happened was it went to the 5th map and they lost on Vertigo. They were down big. Then they started to come back. But even so, they didn't really show that they could sort of identify the weaknesses in the CT side of Vitality. And Vitality started playing more and more confident, playing together. And they were able to beat them overall. So, okay. yeah, let's look at the way the final went, shall we? You'd have to say overall, OC overperformed. I mean, look at how many kills. I mean, obviously they did have some mega overtime sessions, but look at the ADR all in all, the differential. Obviously, that's countered by the fact that Lee's really underperformed. He's minus 30, 50 ADR. He's doing really bad. Worst fragger out the whole series. Like, yeah, that's tough. Ziwu obviously is in godlike form, but he is Ziwu. Let's be real. Like, he's one of the greatest players of all time already, even though he hasn't been in that many finals and won that many championships. Yeah, I know it's a studio line, but it's still a big one for him, actually. So my problem is this. Think what it took in this final for Liquid to almost win. They had to have some Yekindar entries the first couple of maps. They had to have some NAF clutches on the last third and fourth maps. They had to have even OC sort of open around the third and fourth and getting some key kills. They had to have Nitro with some big kills on Mirage to even keep them in a position where they could get to an advantage in 2-1 in series. This is their best ever run with Yekindar. And look at them as an overall team. They don't even crack the top teams in terms of fragging. Now, obviously, people like Astralis didn't even get out the group. Fury and Fnatic are going out earlier. Heroic going out early. Outsiders going out in the quarters. Vitality, yeah, they're in the final. Cloud9 in the semis. G2 in the semis. But even so, where's Team Liquid? Where are they? Well, let's go and look at them as a team. Remember, most of these teams aren't going to count that much because, like, who gives a fuck, for example, where Spirit is? Like, they weren't relevant to the tournament. Who cares overall where Outsiders is? They played way less maps, right? So you go down here, Liquid's played 25 maps, way more than everyone else. Why is Liquid playing way more maps? Oh, that's true, because they lost a whole bunch of times. And even when they beat people, it's usually 2-1, and they're not just 2-0 people. So let's go and look at these other top teams in the tournament. G2, Cloud9, Vitality. So you go and look here. G2, plus 179. Cloud9, plus 173. Vitality, plus 207. Even Outsiders, plus 156. Then you go all the way down to Liquid, minus 10. This is their best run, guys. How about players? You saw that a minute ago, didn't you? No one to be seen from Team Liquid here. But let's go look at players. So let's scroll. Okay, Yekindar doing pretty well, right? Plus 29 overall. Now, he is an entry, so it's going to be hard ever to just dominate a tournament as an entry. You've got to have people follow up as well. After that, you keep going down. It's NAF. Okay, solid tournament from NAF. Keep going down. Well, I'm going along with it's a leash, but everyone told me now, look, this wasn't a good tournament from leash. That's not good enough. Let's keep going. OC's all the way down there. 25 maps plus 11. You guys told me this guy was good. Nah, not for a team that should be trying to be number one in the world, mate. And if you want to get Nitro, look, he hasn't even only just come back. He's just not a very good player right now, is he? I know he had some big kills on Mirage, but fucking hell, mate. He's one of the worst players in the tournament. This is wild. Okay, that's their best ever run. Now, what did they do in that best ever run? Well, let's go back and check again. They beat Cloud9 and Cloud9. They're the two world-class teams they beat. And it only really counts one time. I mean, you could say the win's a win, but there wasn't the same pressure for Cloud9 to win. That's why I hate this format, by the way. Then let's add in, what's their second and third best win? Teams they beat. I mean, the way it's going in this tournament, you'd have to say Mouse and Fnatic. Their second and third best series wins in a tournament that's just best of 3 and best of 5 series. And people are raving up like this team can win the major. If they do, it'll be an enormous upset. It'll be a bigger upset than when Cloud9 won the major, even though technically on paper I'd actually say maybe this team is better than that Cloud9 lineup in terms of what their potential is and what they could accomplish. Guys, this is whack. And then shall I put in the one last detail? This wasn't IEM Cologne. This was a tournament that was a studio LAN. It was going to have no crowd. And the actual crowd it did have, I suspect there were less people in that crowd than fucking Nico has had in bed after a wild night out. Because I guess all the fucking girls must be like influencers trying to get that bread, innit? Whatever. Now, if you were someone who'd wanted to bet on Team Liquid in the final, not elsewhere, as I did before, by the way, don't worry, did bet on Vitality to beat them with favourite odds. But if you wanted to bet on Team Liquid in this final where they were a big underdog, this would have been the perfect time, if you've never deposited on esports bet, to use a different first-time deposit bonus, which in this case is if you bet up to 100 USDT, lose the bet, and message the mod mail and say Thorin sent you, then they'll give you the 100 USDT back. And there we go, you're back at it again. So that means if Team Liquid had have pulled it out and won on Overpass, you would have gotten 2 point something times your 100. And if you'd have lost, you just get the hundo back, don't you? So I tell you what, though, that's not the only tournament they've played with Yikinda. So let's see, was this an outlier? Let's look at the other tournaments they've played. So let's go way back to when they first got Yikinda, IEM Cologne, right? Well, everyone remembers they made quarters there. That's a big tournament with stadium. By the way, they lost when they got to the stadium. But okay, let's go and look at that tournament. Here we go. Obviously, I'm going to have to move this over. So they lose to Team Spirit in the opener. Not the one from the major that you're thinking of, the semi-finals, almost beat FaceCard. No, that team had Dexter. This team, because Dexter's gone, and now he's in OG, they've brought in 17-year-old Ukrainian player, Wonderful, who is playing his first real fucking LAN ever. This series, Liquid wins big on Dust 2, they lose fairly big on Overpass, and then they narrowly lose on Ancient in overtime, right? And you go and look, okay, all right from them. Wonderful, of course, plus 11, 69 kills. Okay. Still, Team Spirit, not a world-class team, not someone you're supposed to lose to. So let's go to the rest of the tournament. You go to the lower bracket immediately. You go down here, you play against 0-0 Nation, who've obviously made those changes and brought in some of the other players, right, that you might remember from Godsent, it was, wasn't it? And they beat them 2-1. Close series, though, isn't it? In fact, you know what? This is a pretty close series. 0-0 Nation wins an OT on Overpass. Liquid wins an OT on Mirage. And then, yeah, big time win by Liquid on Ancient. But there's a world where 0-0 Nation could win this series, right? You go down here, you look, Elise carrying, OC's carrying. I mean, he's playing 0-0 Nation. Even really big performance by NAF. Overall, some good stuff overall from Yikinda. Wasn't some superstar player or anything. It's not like they're doing super well on 0-0 Nation. Like, this isn't really that good, guys. Then you go to the next match. They play Cloud9, the team that later on they're going to beat, right? This is like, I would say overall a dominant win. Pretty good, right? That's a decent win to get. They're the team that won IEM Dallas. Then they play against Furia, the team that actually beats them at EPL. This is a really close series though, right? This is one where, yeah, it could go either way. But you know what? They get through and they're into the stadium. Now, when they get to the stadium and they play against Movistar Riders, a team that has no fucking big LAN experience, especially not on a massive stage in front of fans like that. Like, they've never been in that setting. They've been at like a major stuff when they've been a bad team. They're not a team that was ever in a position like this. They're the team that's supposed to lose here and buckle and not be able to get through, right? And what do you know? No. Movistar Riders wins Ancient fairly easily. They lose on Inferno despite having monster T rounds. And then they win with a good CT half on Vertigo. Now you look at the series. Just a cheeky plus 25 for Sun Pius. Yikinda, just okay. Pretty good stats. Remember, he is an entry, but nothing massive. He's good. OC doing not really fuck all compared to Sun Pius. Yet again, out-fragged by a fucking Spanish AWPer. You mean if OC became Spanish tomorrow, he'd be the third best AWPer? He's probably better than the Martyrs guy, but it's a fucking good line, isn't it? And that's it. They're just out the tournament. They don't get to play FaZe Clan. They don't get to go deeper in the competition. But let's look at the team at the tournament. So you know what? Good news. They're one of the better fragging teams in the tournament. Na'Vi wasn't that crazy at this one, actually, overall. Vitality, obviously, they hadn't made the changes at this point in time, had they? There was a bunch of different lineups all in all. This is when Movistar still had Sun Pius. This one's going pretty well, right? I mean, most of it's group stage stuff, but okay. This is some pretty good stuff all in all. You look over here, good news. Elise was the fourth highest rated player in the tournament with a good number of maps played. They're always playing loads of maps. Team Liquid, of course, because they lose maps and it's 2-1 all the time. So, okay, this is all pretty good stuff though, right? Then there's one more tournament. You're going to say, well, not a whole tournament, but there's the Blast Fall groups, right? Can they get out of those? So let's go have a look at that. Here we go. Blast Fall groups. You'd have to say Liquid's actually got the hardest group overall, right? They've got Na'Vi, they've got G2 with the new lineup, and they've got Complexity, who no one gives a fuck about, but whatever. Now, what's amazing is they don't have to play Na'Vi the first time round because Na'Vi shockingly lose to Complexity because Na'Vi doesn't have Simple. They have their own young kid. They have a head trick from like their academy squad or whatever. So Liquid wins against G2 in the first game they've ever played with Huxley and JKS. They beat Colt 16-14 on Vertigo. What? What's going on, guys? Like, what? Okay, I mean, a win's a win, I guess. But again, that's not fucking impressive stuff, right? Okay, fair enough. You go into the finals, you're playing against Na'Vi, who has the 17-year-old fucking kid or whatever, a 16-year-old head. He goes shit, eight frags. You lose 16-4. What the fuck? What the? OC against Headtrick. And I don't care about that, sorry. Like, Simple was coach. Shut the fuck up, Simple, and you. Wind your fucking gums in, homie. Oh, wait, you already did that. Then in the fucking plains, let's go over here, shall we? Okay. They beat NIP 2-0. Very close series, by the way. If you don't know, NIP then goes to Pro League. Bombs it so hard, they literally changed their fucking lineup. So NIP was on the downs here. Then they play against Heroic, another team I would say is on the downs overall. They beat them in dominant fashion. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's at least their name win against a potentially world-class team. Now let's look at this competition. Actually, the second highest fragging team. This is one of their best tournaments they've ever had. But it's only a group stage with a few play-ins, isn't it? They have Yakinda as one of the top fraggers. He's doing pretty well, right? Didn't have to play as many maps overall because other people did play loads because Navi then coming back with simpler they play groups and all that. And obviously G2 was coming from different spot, had to play more. You get what's going on. But okay, really good performance by him overall. In fact, you know what? You go and look at the players overall. There's Yakinda right up there. You go down. There's Naf. There's OC and there's Elige. This is a really good performance. This is about the best you could hope for if you're someone there. Basically, once you get past Navi, maybe talk about FaZe. Or, like, Liquid's one of the better teams, right? This is pretty good, all in all. This is exactly what you'd want to see. Problem is, it wasn't a full tournament. That's not a true playoffs. There's no stage, no crowd, and that's it. Like, we have to wait for the fall finals, right? Have you ever noticed how this goes? It seems like their worst tournaments are the ones with most pressure, and when they, even then, don't always even play the best teams. Now, what's whack to me about all of this is while Team Liquid's just lost the final, everyone's critiquing the fuck out of Vitality for their own outsiders win, 2-0. For their win against G2, 2-0. For the fact that in the final, oh, what's going on? Like, they're almost lost to them. Right, let me just make something very clear for you right now. Vitality won 8 straight BOX series in this particular tournament, a minimum best of 3. Those included wins over Navi and G2, people who were riding these teams hard. They went 17-4 in maps, and you want to put them in a similar boat to Team Liquid when they've also just beaten Team Liquid and then talk like these are comparable teams and, well, you know, just wide open, anyone could win. That doesn't mean doesn't mean will or it's likely to. That's what we want to talk about, not just can. Can someone win? What a stupid fucking question. So here's the problem I have with Team Liquid. They're a good but not great team. They can be very good, but they don't seem like they can be great with this 5-man lineup. Their ceiling's not that high. You don't actually see them ever reach it that often, right? Their floor is good, but it can also fall out, as you saw against Movistar, as you saw against Eternal Fire. They have the lack of a true superstar. Now, at the moment, they can do it sort of by committee, like at Blast. But Yakinda's an entry, so it's ridiculous that you can just hard carry like Zewu and Simple and those guys. Someone like Elise has been having up and down performances. The call-ins good, but a little bit dodgy. They've got a little bit of resilience and they can win an OT and come back, but at the same time, they're not really a team map to map to map. You can't really just trust them to win 2 maps in a row, right? They're not really that sort of a squad. Then you look at the map pool, and quite frankly, they've got like strength in terms of depth, but in terms of how good they are on individual maps, which map are they a lock to win against other world-class teams? Mirage, Inferno, they're losing that sometimes. They're really not. What about this? They rely on Yakinda really hard, but he himself doesn't have that much experience winning championships, being in big finals, being in big semis, coming up with the massive performances, himself dominating at majors, which is what you're going to ask this guy to do. One of the reasons it was easy for me to pick Vitality is I can rely on Zewu to carry the fuck up a massive series. I can't rely on Yakinda too. And even if, quite frankly, he was having his best day, you're just going to get more overall like game-winning impact from someone like Zewu. Yakinda will create more impact for the round, potentially, could open it up. That's why, by the way, if you ever had Yakinda and Elige was really, really good, or you had Yakinda and a world-class hopper, maybe if you had Dexter, now we'd be cooking with gas, wouldn't we?
It's YNK, so since I stole all of Thorin's gigs, at the very least, what you guys can do is subscribe to his YouTube channel, so go on and do it right now.
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Hades GOUD, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Ochs, Animosity, Bot Pounder 420, Jensen Goh, Kovacevicd, Pacy, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Tooorin, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Would you like to ask a question in one of those monthly AMAs where sometimes I roast people? Do you want teasers to find out who the guests are for upcoming shows and interviews I'm doing? Maybe you want to be part of one of those cool, lengthy esports discussions that I have. Well, if any of those perks sound tantalizing to you, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? Via the Patreon link in the description box below.